air conditioner is not able to turn on. Okay, so there is a temperature sensor, and it will give a trigger that the temperature is going high. Just a simple example I'm taking. This kind of alarms are now routed through the BTS to our talk. But when we are talking about talk is something like it's a monitoring room. Okay, so when we are talking about it, it has got a limitation because it is not meant to transfer the alarms from one side to this one. So there's a certain number of alarms you can transmit it, and you can have it. Some people try to do it by means of having standalone systems. Okay, and that standalone system people have developed even softwares which will try to monitor set of sites or whatever it is. All these things have got their own limitation. The limitation in terms of the features, the limitation in terms of what exactly is to be monitored. Because people who develop, they are not really into the system to see, these are the repeated problems what anybody is facing. There are a lot of people even in India like PowerTech, Inala from Africa, all these companies, they do have their own standalone communication systems. But definitely what we are looking is not just a first layer of entering a communication. It's a sort of bidirectional communication. I should be able to control it remotely. So that is roller in your own shelter. We said that we want to reduce the infrastructure. Okay, we want to make it intelligent. And we are introducing one more. To add to the problem, the vandalism. Anybody can tamper your system because it is vulnerable, it is outside. So all these things are having issues, and what we try to do is what is best for the industry.
I want to add that I have also seen many of these network management companies coming up. The biggest problem is that they're all looking at one side of the picture, one part of the picture. They are not looking at the total cost of operation. I'll say total cost of operation not just for the tower companies, but the total cost of operation for the telecom companies. That is what is needed. They actually reduce one part by adding certain investment, and it doesn't really have the same impact because it is a total cost of ownership that we really need to really look at from the tower company's point of view, from the telecom operator's point of view.
I have a
yeah, please go ahead.
I have a question that it's kind of triggered by what Harish said. And Harish, if you had been here since this morning, you would have seen at least this workshop was not just about the mobile impact on rural, but in general, power usage in mobile network, telecom and IT, right? But still, I want to connect it to the point you made, which is, there are quite a few talks today, right? And even outside, and I'm also guilty of giving talks where we assume certain thing about our rural users. Okay, we assume okay, don't speak English, B, they're not on the power grid, and all kinds of assumptions that we make, and probably many of these things are anecdotal, right? Our assumptions come either because we read a report by somebody that never went to a village, or we remember our time, the summers we spent in our grandparents' house, right? So the reason that becomes important is when Arun talks about frugal engineering and frugal innovations that we come up with. I think if we make up this reality about what villagers actually do, okay, in terms of what is the real power situation, how do they solve it, I think we'll come up with solutions that are not going to match the real problem. Right? So I know in your case, you actually have folks that go to rural areas. There's probably a presence where you learn firsthand what's happening. How do you suggest, that the telecom world, most of the equipment vendors here happens to be MNCs, right? How do you expect that we actually fix that problem? Short of sending everybody to village, is there a way to solve this problem here?
No, I mean, we don't have a choice. I mean, forget the MNCs. I mean, MNCs are one. You talk about Indian companies, right? The question is, I'll ask a simple question. How many of us know what does a street vendor in Udupi spend on a daily basis on kerosene? Another simple question. How much does she take interest from a RRB? 70% of India takes money from regional rural bank. What is the interest rate that RRB? The urban policymakers, are not sensitivity, have no sensitivity to the ecosystem. One is the need, right? The question is, One is a need, and one is how do you look at the partner. See, it's not about villager being a beneficiary. When you try to sell a TV, many of the time it's a partner. It's also people in the design team who also want TVs. Right? How many a times that we have used in this case, like the cook stoves, a classic example of the world cook stoves are, if I put all the cook stove manufacturers in the world in this room, all are men who have never cooked. Right? Same, when you look at the poor, how do we, it's until and unless we get embedded in the society, how do we get the numbers up is a very difficult, it's very, for me, the classic is when people come to our office with head of rural marketing, I'm talking to a wall. I'm talking a wall, I mean basic essence of an ecosystem that is required in a village, the person actually does not know. What will I talk? So I think we need to unlearn. A lot of our education system needs to actually revamp about connecting what rural India is in many ways. Coming back, and there is businesses to be in, for example, remote locations of where I see people don't have electricity, but the telecom tower is pumping diesel and spitting out fumes. For people in the rich areas, the poor areas have to actually breathe the fumes. Is that equality? Is that equity? Is that justice in many ways for me, right? The question is, we need to revamp our thinking process of what equity is. And there are business models where you actually can remodify a ship container, create a tower using solar. You create the ship container not only to provide WLL, the local wireless loops, to the nearby locations, create the center which has solar panels to use charging stations for people to actually charge their mobile phones, because it's an added revenue for the telecom. You can actually have batteries that the people can go back and the child can actually study under better light conditions. You can create multiple business models around the tower, around those. But I think we are also a little bit in our country enamored with it has to be 20+% return. Right? I think we need to, we all, I mean, who have come from IITs, have let's not pat our back. We got into IITs because 600 million Indians did not write it. That's why we got into IITs. And because 600 million Indians bought salt and sugar, they paid subsidy for the salt and sugar, our education got subsidized. So let's not pat our backs. I think we need to create that same ecosystem there, and telecom is a good way of creating that ecosystem. But I would like to have, I'd like to see some grassroots level managers, and it's tie suit will not work.
I want to take that question and answer. TIPA is an institute where all the tower manufacturers come together. Today, the hottest topic, what is being discussed, is to see how to make a renewable energy a service model. Yeah. Okay. This is the biggest topic, and the business models are being worked out. The right people are to be are required. The right amount of energy, enthusiasm should be there in the partner. What is this renewable energy service model is all about? You are serving a telecom tower, but at the same time to the community, can you provide the power? Okay. And if at all we are providing a power, then it should be some sort of an equality should be there, so that the power, whatever they are getting, should be economical. So this is what is being discussed. And I think shortly people would like to move into that kind of environment.
Can I just add to that one? That's exactly the right approach, which is a community-based approach for doing it out there. Because as Harish said, in nearly about 5% of the towers where they are, there is no electricity. Absolutely. There's only this one. So we're as the operators and others, we're all talking to government, because on one side we are also subsidizing renewable energy. We also, from the telecom side, from the USO, want to subsidize rural connectivity. And by the way, diesel is subsidized by the Ministry of Petroleum. The problem is, how do we get all these three guys? You put the money together. The money is there. The question is, how do you do it in a way that this whole thing comes together at the right time and delivers the right solution? So it's work in progress, and I think it will move fast.
By the way, I just want to add one thing to that, because another piece of the equation, particularly at least as an assumption, I don't know if it's true or not for the rural, but at least the rural in the United States, is that education also tends to solve things. And so there's always these initiatives of providing tablets or remote education through technology as well, which in your model may actually contribute to the problem instead of solving it. So I'd like to understand that a bit, because e-education, e-health, remote healthcare to these things, using technology is also another assumption that's generally made.
Yeah, I mean, if I answer that, there are two, yeah, exactly. One is, in places where they have fantastic telecommunication and everything else, internet speeds are decent enough. Not that you can download lots of, but you can. The issue is, many of the tablets in the schools, they don't have power, right? So the ecosystem, what I'm talking about, right? And secondly, the way we also look at efficiency, like when a school said, we want to buy 10 computers, is, do you want 10 computers or do you need 10 terminals? Right? Had they had the grid, they would have bought 10 computers and mark the efficiency. Now, how do you, the whole education between efficient supply and the content, then it should not be just games,
Right.
then the power, then the internet, then it makes it useful, teacher training programs to the teacher, to the students. I think those, I mean, if we did a very small survey in a so-called modern state of Karnataka 2 weeks ago on education, many of the places people are saying fantastic internet connection, power, no power between 10 and 6 in the morning. 10 in the morning to 6 in the evening. So what do I do? I mean, so the whole ecosystem needs to be put in place.
I just want to add to this. I think our work in rural areas over the last 15 years has shown power as probably the most crucial issue today in rural areas. And fortunately today, see, in terms of policy, there is even the policy of what is called rural electric supply company. But a rural electric supply company, where will it generate power, who will it supply to, and things like that. So though it is there, it just has not come up. Because the basically decentralized generation of power was just not possible till recently. My belief is that time has come that today it is possible to generate power in the villages using solar.
Correct.
Now, at least in the daytime. As soon as you start trying to use storage, you'll land up into a lot of problem. But in terms of the basically generating power using solar in the villages in a very decentralized manner is certainly possible. The problem will be twofold. First of all, there is supposed to be